told God, hey, like, if my life doesn't get better in basically 9 months, I'm just gonna end it all. I'm just gonna end my life because I was like, I had enough. And I just met my end. Like, I met my limit. Um, and I basically at the time gave God 9 months. But I gave God 9 months thinking that like not much was going to change with my situation. And so I had in my mind where I had set a date in December, and I was like, I was done. I knew exactly how I was going to do it, whatever. And you know what? As always, it was like God basically changed my life in 6 months, so beat it by like 3 months. And I wanted to share my testimonial because I feel like there may be other people who maybe have struggled with this where life may not be going the way they want it to, or life has just been hard. Like adulting has just been the biggest struggle ever. And so I just wanted to share my short story and show you how little ways like God showed up. And for a while, it took me a while to share it because there was a lot of it was being embarrassed and like just being super vulnerable about it. And I don't know, I went to church yesterday and I realized sometimes they talked about sometimes you can forget what God has done. And it's not that I forgot about it because every time I well up just thinking about it, like I get tears in my eyes. But it was for a long time I felt very embarrassed about it. Like I was that even that low. So I'm gonna share with you like all the things that is happening. So this is like a cool thing that was happening in the midst of it, and I didn't realize it at the time. So this is all reflection based. So basically, in March when I had said that, which was 2025. In the meantime, I was applying for a job that I have now, and at the time there was over 2,000 applicants, and I made like the top 80. Like it was nuts. Like it was like less than like 1%. And that's just a little side note because I didn't realize at the time that God was working in the background. Like I didn't see it back then because I was so low and I had my mindset. And so there was a lot of different events that was happening. Hey. So there was a lot of different events that was happening. So the first event where it kind of started this whole process where I was like, oh, is God working or is my life getting better or what? So I remember one day I was driving and I got home and I noticed that I looked at my tire and I noticed there was cracks building up in the tire. And this was something that I don't usually notice because I don't know cars that well. But I kind of noticed that something like brought me to attention. It said, "Look at your tires," and I started analyzing it, and I saw that I was getting cracked. And I felt something that said, "Okay, go to a mechanic, whatever. Go to someone to change your tires, get some new ones." And hesitantly, I did it because I was like, oh, I'm not sure. Like, and obviously, I wasn't in a good place, but I just went anyways because obviously it made me nervous. So, throughout that experience, I ended up getting tires and brakes. It ended up being like under $1,000. And it was nerve wracking spending that. And I remember when I spent that in cash, there was a part of me that kind of stopped for a bit and was like, could it be my life is getting a little bit better than I thought? So this was like maybe like a month or so after. And I remember I stopped myself when I spent it and I saw, oh, I have like money left in my account. Like, could it be a little bit better? Because the fact that I was able to like do all that. And it sounds so small, right? It sounds so odd. But I don't know. That was one of the moments where I just started thinking, is my life getting better? So I kind of left it. So then in July, I already had paid from before. So I already had, and the year before, so in 2024, I already had paid ticket to go to Sarah Jake's conference. Sarah Jake's Roberts concert. Not concert, sorry, conference. And I remember going and I just felt led to go. Like, I wish I could say, like, I know why, but I just felt led to go. So I arrived to the hotel in the morning, and this was one of the instances where God kind of showed up and like he used different scenarios. And I remember arriving in the morning to the lobby, and then I found out that you needed a credit card in order to officially go into the room. But we all had assumed, hey, we all had assumed because I was going because my friend had booked it online, that they would have taken the card online. So at the time, I didn't have a credit card, right? And I only had the money that I budgeted for that trip. So unfortunately, they said, "Oh, okay, we can't let you in." Like these were people in the front desk, and I remember at that moment, I was so in distraught, and I remember looking at God, and I was like, I basically told God, and I was like, "You see, this is why I want to end my life. Like, life is not getting better, and this is just not it." And so I remember falling asleep in the lobby. I was in the lobby, falling asleep, and keep in mind, my friends weren't coming in till the late, like, till late. Like they weren't coming in till like 1 a.m. basically. So I would have been there the whole day. Thank you. God loves you too. And so basically what happened is I started sleeping and then all of a sudden another manager came. And so she started asking questions about the situation. I just said, "Hey, like I budgeted and unfortunately I don't have like money for that down deposit." So she comes back and all of a sudden she's like, "It's okay, we'll let you in the room." And I remember that moment I just started bawling. Right? And it was in that like little small moment I heard God say, "Nikki, I got your back." And then I started crying even more because just like a while back, I was looking at God and like telling him like, like I want to end my life, all that whole spiel that I talked about, right? And I was basically complaining. Like I have to admit, I wasn't a perfect Christian at that point. I was complaining because I was like, this is proving everything I said and why I don't want to be here. And in that moment, it's like I just felt this love, and I was like, oh my God, like God had my back all this time, and I spent all that time telling God like all like this is not working, all this stuff, this is why. And then he ended up showing up and I was able to actually go in the room and be in comfort. And throughout that conference it was very powerful, but I remember there was this one point where one of the speakers had said, a lot of times like when we're going through things, we tend to not go to God. Like we would just only take the good moments, but we'll tend to hide when there's stuff that's not going well. So I kind of like took a hold of that and I realized like there's points in my life where sometimes I'll go through things and I'll kind of just like hide or I'll stay silent. And so of course, yes I do. And so I would kind of stay silent and I realized at that moment throughout that journey where I felt like ending my life, I would always remind God and say, "Hey, you said to come to you, like even when I'm not feeling down, so this is here I am. This is how I'm feeling." And I would go about my day. And so the next scenario is when I came back, maybe like a month later or something, I had my pastor. Um, I had my pastor. She was looking over she was helping me with my budget and stuff like that. And she looked over my budget, and I remember she was so excited, and she was like, um, "Oh, Nikia, you're doing so well, and like you have a lot of money left over after you pay your bills, and blah blah blah." And I think maybe it was out of guilt, and I was like, "This woman's way too excited helping me," and I just felt this urge to tell her. I don't know what it was, but I felt this urge to just tell her, "Hey, like, I don't think I'm gonna make it by the end of this year, and I'm planning not to be here." So, because she was just way too excited, and I felt guilty because she was helping me, and I was like, and I remember telling her, and I think that was the catalyst, and that's what kind of changed my life because she didn't accept what I said about myself. She didn't accept those thoughts. She didn't even entertain it. And she basically, we were texting, and I said, like, "I don't think I'm gonna make it, and like, you're helping me, but there's like no point." And she said this one quote, and that carried me through. And she texted me and said, "You're gonna say this over and over again. You are going to be thriving by the end of 2025." And she made me say it over and over again while we were having this conversation. And I don't know, I think that one phrase gave me a little hope. Now, I'm not going to like lie to you guys and say, "Oh, I thought everything was going to change." No. I was still in that state where um I was still in that state where um what do you call it? I still was in that state where um like I didn't really believe what I was saying, but like she gave me some type of hope and she said, "Keep on saying that. You're going to be thriving by the end of 2025." So what I ended up doing is I got these little cue cards, right? You know where you get them from the dollar store, little cue cards, and I wrote that you're thriving by the end of 2025. And I had other affirmations that I added on, but I kept those in my pocket. And everywhere, everywhere I went, basically I would say that same affirmation. And I would say it over and over again. And I kept on living life. I kept on going to church. I kept on doing what I needed to do. And one day, it wasn't until one day, like a few days later. And okay, so let me tell you the in betweens, okay? Because I have time. So basically, I was talking to a therapist. I don't talk to her as much now, but we probably met one or two times. And then one day I just told her, I just spilled. And I remember she was just like, like fighting for me. Like it was so weird. And she was just like, oh, even if I have to do the sessions for free, I will do it for free if it meant that you stay alive. Because she's like, there's no way the enemy's going to win. Like it was that type of passion talk. And I remember thinking, like, could it be like God's like putting like people in my life, like weirdly putting people in my life to like encourage me? And so I had different episodes like that. Like even like one time I was at work and then like a customer was like, "Oh my God, you're such a blessing." Like all this stuff. She was saying these stuff and I remember thinking like, what the heck is wrong with people? And because I remember just helping her with something so simple. And she said those stuff. Anyways, fast forward. Maybe like the fifth month or so, I remember waking up one day and then I heard God's voice say, "You're all caught up now." That's all it said. And I opened my eyes, right? I woke up and I was like, what the heck? And I remember thinking, I am. But I still had in back of my mind what I had said, right? I was like, yeah, by the end of this year, I'm going to end my life, right? But I kind of heard it, but I didn't think anything of it. I think I ignored it because I didn't know what to do with it. Because I didn't think God would show up like that. So, being how God is, he came again. And another morning, so this is probably a few days later, and he was like, your life is better now. Now what? And I could just imagine God just staring at me like this. Your life is better now. Now what? And that's when I realized, I was like, oh my God. I realized during those few months, I didn't have those thoughts again. Right? So the thoughts had actually decreased of me feeling like, oh, I need to end my life. And I was actually starting to enjoy my life. But it was only when he said those words, I started to reflect that I was like, oh, I'm not saying those things anymore to end my life. Like, I wasn't saying, like, it wasn't as strong as it was back in March. Like, by the few months that went by, it got smaller and smaller. But it was only when he said those last words, I was like, oh, I didn't realize it. Hey. And I remember getting up after hearing him say, hey guys, hey, thank you. And I remember getting up and then I heard God say, you underestimated me. And I was like, ooh. And I felt that in my gut. I felt it in my gut. Because I realized that I went in thinking I was going to end my life, believing that there was no way he could change my life. I was like, there's no way he can make my life better. And that's why I made such a challenge where I was like, if you don't make my life better, I don't want it. Like, I don't want to be here. And he did that very thing. And so when he said, you underestimated me, oh, thank you. It's called cat eye. The nails. I've been trying something new. Thank you. And when he said that, I felt that in my gut. And I realized, like, I didn't think that stuff was going to change. Like, much less 6 months. Like I gave him 9 months. He did it in 6. Like, I played chess. He played checkers. And he was like, oh, let's go. Like, that's what it felt like. And it just made me reflect. And it made me realize, like, even when I gave up on myself, he didn't give up on me. Even when I felt like I'm over with life, he didn't give up. He still sent people that was pouring into me. But you see, at the time, I didn't see it that way. Like, at the time when I was in that very low moment, I didn't see all the ways he was working. But I think at that moment when he said you underestimated me, all of a sudden, all the reflection, like it felt like, when you see in movies and you see all these flashbacks, it felt like flashbacks. Like I felt like God was showing me all the ways that he brought people in my life to help me. Like everything from the mechanic. Even though he had no idea I was gonna end my life. It was like down from the mechanic, from my pastor, how she just like gave me that word and said, you're gonna thrive by the end of 2025. And I was like, yeah, right. And it was amazing to see how he sent people. Even he used like my friend. I don't talk to her as much anymore, but at the time I didn't share this. But like there were so many events where one day I was in the car with her, and she told me, she was like, "Nakia, you do know your life's getting." She's like, "It looks like your life is improving. It's getting better." She's like, "You have a job now, blah blah blah." And I remember thinking, "Yeah, it's okay, like nothing crazy." But I realized like she was being used to foreshadow my life and how good it was. She was used because sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes when we're in our situation, and it's not going the way we want it to, or you're at a very low place, it's hard to see the good things. And I realized like there was people in my life that was kind of showing me like, oh no, it's going good. Like, and it was so weird. And it just made me see like, like seasons are never permanent. As much as we think it is. Like, and I think this was what sparked it. Is like I've seen a lot of people lately, they are going through hard times, whether with jobs, relationships, whatever it may be, and sometimes they feel so hopeless. Like, and I feel that, and it feels so cliche to tell people like, "Oh, it's gonna get better." 'Cause I feel like that's what everyone says. Like when you're in that lone moment and someone's telling you that, you don't want to hear that. Um, but I don't know. I just felt very propelled, like to just share this testimonial and not be embarrassed by it anymore. Um, because I feel like someone needs to hear that. Like, it's like, I there, by the time December popped around, December 2025, there was a point where I had a hard time. Like when it was New Year's Eve, I had a hard time because I was like, oh my god, I'm still alive. Like this is nuts. Like I couldn't believe it because I was like, wow, God, like took me from like a very low point, made my life better. And when I say better, guys, it was just like better financially, better mental health, like just like all around. I know it sounds vague, but I can't explain it. Like I was just in a very sad place where I was like, there's no way I'm living for the next 20 years feeling like this. Like sometimes my anxiety gets ahead of me and I just think the worst and I'm like, oh, had enough. But it's just so powerful how he uses those little moments and he was working in the background sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but when I look back now I was like, wow, like God was like working in the background. Literally he was working when I didn't see it, when I didn't believe it. And you see, that's the thing, like, sometimes we're, oh, thank you, yes, I will one day at a time. Yes, come back. But yes, it's like I always say now, it's one day at a time. I don't know if I'm gonna live a long life. I mean, that's promised in the Bible. They all live a long life. But I know sometimes life just gets hard. And it's like you don't know when today, like you just won't get back up. But I have to believe that, like, I will always get back up as long as I stay near God. But life gets hard. Like adulting, sometimes um, it gets hard. And I don't know, it just showed me, like, now I think about it, I was like, I don't think I would ever test God like that again. It was out of his grace, but I wouldn't test him again because something we just don't realize, like, God is such, like, Jesus. He's such a big God. And it's like, we underestimate, like, how much he could change your life. Like, and sometimes we forget about it. Like, how many, I'm going to talk about people in general, but, like, how many people I've seen where they've been in a certain spot and then all of a sudden, like, they start like going to church and they start following God, and then their whole life changes. They get married, have kids, their whole job changes, career, they start a business. And I've seen it in my own life too, like, and I'm talking about before, like, I remember showing someone my resume and they looked at it and they said, oh, I started in retail. And then basically I went on to start a business, right? Because I had gotten laid off. And I remember she said this to me where I never forgot it. And she was like, I'm looking at your resume. And she's like, I could literally see how, like, God, like, skyrocketed you. Like he just changed your life. Like you're in retail and then all of a sudden, like, started a business. Like that's crazy. And so, like, God can, like, you can be in point A and then all of a sudden end up in point D. And I just learned from that scenario, like, you can't estimate him. And, one day I was reflecting again because I'm often reminded of this testimonial. It's the weirdest thing, but I'm often reminded, it always comes to mind, and I get so emotional about it. And I remember, like, it's like I couldn't grasp it. And I was like, God changed my life in like 6 months. Like, he just turned it around. And I was like, if he could do it in 6 months, I think I can trust him with my future. Like, I came to that revelation and I was like, wow, like, I think I could trust him in my future, because I believe in that time, I stopped like trying to change things. I stopped trying to fix it myself. And I just got to a point where I was like, you know what, God, you do your thing. I'm just gonna do what I know to do, and that's it. Like, I had no expectations. I had my date set, and that was it. So I just wanted to come on here and share that testimonial. And remind you that, like, if you're in a situation where it's hard, and it's very hard for you to see the end of the road right now, where you're like, I don't know how this could turn around. I feel stuck. I feel like it can't change. I'm here to tell you it can be changed. I can here to tell you that the seasons are never permanent. It always shifts and changes. But as long as you continue to move forward, even if you can't see it, even if it seems dark, like, the biggest thing I did was I continued going to church. Like, and I didn't realize it. Like, someone said to me today, they were like, oh, I'm so glad you went through the trial. And I remember thinking, like, it didn't feel like that. Like, I was just kind of going through the motions because I knew my deadline anyways. And I just did what I need to do. But now when I look back, I stayed open. Like, I was still technically talking to God, even though I told him that. I was still talking to God in general. I wish I could say, like, oh, I would pray for 3, 4 hours a day. Like, it was nothing like that. Like, I would just speak with God. And I guess I stayed open, right? Because I was still going to the conference at Sarah Jake's. Like, I was still inspired. And so I think, like, little by little, like, he was like sprinkling hope on me, and didn't realize it. Like, he was just sprinkling hope. And then sometimes we just need that. Like, it's just important that if you're feeling low, it's like you're not staying in a place where you're not getting fed. Like, I don't want it to sound super spiritual, but, like, you're not staying in bed. For example, like, you're taking a shower and you're moving around, I don't know, you're cleaning, you're going for a walk. Like, it's so important that you're not staying in that state and you're continuing to live life. And I think what I did differently is I was still going to church, even though I had a deadline. And I was still like talking to God, and I was still practicing certain things that I learned from that conference that I felt like God was speaking to me about, where I'll be like, okay, God, you said to talk to you even if it's not perfect. So here it is. Like, I've had many nights like that. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you, that testimonial, and hopefully inspire someone. And yeah, so I just want to inspire someone. Oh, thank you. You're so funny. Thank you, thank you. But yes, I appreciate it. But yes, I'm gonna like yeah, I'm gonna end the live now. And I'm gonna be doing some more lives this week. So